There's a quiet truth about money that most people never stop to think about. Two people can earn the same salary, live in the same city, have access to the same opportunities, and yet after 20 years their lives look completely different. One struggles paycheck to paycheck, constantly stressed about bills, while the other has built financial security, investments, and freedom. What created that difference wasn't luck, and it wasn't intelligence. According to Warren Buffett, the biggest difference usually comes down to behavior. Specifically, the small financial habits people repeat every single day without realizing the long-term consequences. Warren Buffett has spent decades observing how people think about money. Through his leadership at Berkshire Hathaway and through years of investing, he has seen patterns emerge. Some habits quietly build wealth over time, while others slowly trap people in financial struggle. What makes these habits dangerous is that they rarely feel like big mistakes in the moment. They feel normal, they feel comfortable, they even feel rewarding. But over years and decades, they compound in the wrong direction. Think about that word for a second. Compounding. Most people only think about compounding in terms of investments and interest, but behavior compounds too. A small habit repeated for 30 years can completely shape a person's financial destiny. Buffett once said that chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. When it comes to money, that statement is incredibly powerful, because the habits that keep people poor are usually invisible at first. They seem harmless, even reasonable. But over time, they quietly steal opportunities for growth, savings, and investment. One of the first behaviors Buffett has often warned about is spending money to impress people who don't actually matter. In today's world, this habit has become more powerful than ever. Social media constantly shows images of luxury lifestyles, expensive vacations, designer clothes, and flashy cars. Slowly, people begin to believe that looking rich is the same as being rich. But those two things are completely different. Buffett himself is a perfect example of this difference. Despite being one of the richest people in history, he still lives in the same modest house he bought decades ago. The reason isn't that he can't afford something bigger. The reason is that he understands a simple principle. Every dollar you spend today is a dollar that cannot be invested tomorrow. That doesn't mean you should never enjoy your money. Life is meant to be lived. But there is a huge difference between spending for happiness and spending for appearance. When people constantly buy things just to signal success, they create a lifestyle that requires continuous income to maintain. And the moment income stops or slows down, the entire structure collapses. Wealthy thinkers approach money differently. Instead of asking, "What can I show people today?" they ask, "What can this money become tomorrow?" That small shift in thinking changes everything. Another behavior that often keeps people stuck financially is the obsession with quick money. Everyone loves the idea of getting rich fast. It's exciting. It's dramatic. It makes great headlines and viral social media posts. But Buffett has repeatedly warned that chasing fast money usually leads to fast losses. The reality is that wealth almost always grows slowly. It grows through patience, consistency, and long-term thinking. Yet many people abandon this approach because it feels boring. They jump from one opportunity to another, chasing trends, rumors, and hot investments. Every time something new appears, they feel afraid of missing out. But here's the problem. Constantly jumping between opportunities resets the power of compounding. Instead of allowing investments to grow over decades, people interrupt the process again and again. Buffett once described the stock market as a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. That sentence captures decades of financial history in a single idea. The people who stay calm and consistent usually end up benefiting the most. The people who panic, chase hype, or react emotionally often end up losing progress. Another habit Buffett has warned about is not investing in yourself. When people think about investing, they usually imagine stocks, real estate, or businesses. But Buffett often says that the best investment you can make is in your own skills and knowledge. Your ability to learn, communicate, and create value will always be one of your greatest assets. Think about how many people spend years in the same routine without developing new skills. They stay in the same position, earn the same income, and hope something will change. But hope alone rarely creates opportunity. Growth comes from curiosity, learning, and personal development. Buffett himself spends a huge portion of his day reading books, reports, articles, financial statements. He once estimated that he reads hundreds of pages every day. This habit has helped him build one of the sharpest investment minds in history. But the deeper lesson isn't just about investing. It's about the willingness to continuously improve your understanding of the world. People who ignore this kind of self-investment often find themselves stuck. Their income stays limited because their skills stay limited. Meanwhile, those who constantly learn gradually increase their value and opportunities. Another financial behavior that keeps many people struggling is emotional decision-making. Money decisions driven by fear, excitement, or frustration almost always lead to poor outcomes. Markets rise and fall. Economies expand and contract. But emotional reactions amplify every movement. During market booms, excitement makes people overconfident. They buy at high prices because everyone around them seems to be making money. During downturns, fear takes control. They sell at the worst possible moment just to escape the discomfort of uncertainty. Buffett has built his entire investing philosophy around avoiding emotional decisions. Instead of reacting to noise, he focuses on long-term value. When others panic, he often sees opportunity. When others become irrationally excited, he becomes cautious. This emotional discipline is incredibly rare, but it's also one of the biggest reasons for long-term success. There is another subtle habit that Buffett has mentioned many times, and it quietly affects millions of people. It's the habit of ignoring small expenses. Many people believe that only large financial decisions matter. They pay attention when buying a house or car, but they ignore everyday spending patterns. But small expenses repeated every day can add up to enormous amounts over time. A few unnecessary purchases here and there might not seem important in the moment. But over years, those small amounts could have been invested, compounded, and grown into something meaningful. This doesn't mean you should obsess over every penny or live in constant restriction. The goal isn't deprivation. The goal is awareness. When you become conscious of where your money goes, you gain control over your financial direction. Buffett often emphasizes simplicity in financial life. Simple habits, repeated consistently, tend to outperform complicated strategies driven by emotion and speculation. Now here's something important to understand. None of these behaviors guarantee poverty by themselves. Everyone makes mistakes with money sometimes. Everyone has moments of impulse or poor judgment. The real danger appears when these behaviors become permanent patterns. A person who occasionally overspends can still build wealth if they invest consistently and think long-term. But someone who spends to impress, chases quick money, avoids learning, reacts emotionally, and ignores spending habits is creating a financial system designed to fail. What makes Buffett's perspective powerful is that it focuses on behavior rather than complicated formulas. Many financial experts try to impress people with complex strategies, advanced analytics, and technical terminology. But Buffett repeatedly brings the conversation back to simple principles. Live below your means. Invest consistently. Think long-term. Control your emotions. And keep learning. These ideas sound almost too simple, but simplicity is often where real power lies. In fact, one of the reasons Buffett's wealth grew so dramatically is because he started early and stayed consistent for decades. The majority of his fortune didn't appear overnight. It accumulated gradually through the power of compounding investments over a long period of time. Imagine someone who invests consistently for 30 or 40 years without panic selling, without chasing every trend, and without abandoning the strategy during market downturns. Over time, the growth becomes extraordinary. But here's the challenge. The early years of compounding don't look impressive. Progress feels slow. The numbers seem small. Many people become impatient and quit before the real power appears. This is why patience is such a critical financial skill. Buffett once joked that no matter how great the talent or effort, some things just take time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. Wealth works in a similar way. It requires time for the process to unfold. Another lesson Buffett demonstrates through his life is the importance of independence in thinking. Many people make financial decisions based on what everyone else is doing. If friends are buying expensive cars, they feel pressure to do the same. If social media promotes certain investments, they rush to follow the trend. But crowds are often wrong at critical moments. The ability to think independently, to evaluate decisions based on logic rather than social pressure, is incredibly valuable. Buffett has never been interested in copying the crowd. Instead, he focuses on understanding businesses deeply and waiting for opportunities that make sense. Sometimes that means doing nothing for long periods of time. In a world obsessed with constant action, the willingness to wait can be a huge advantage. It's also important to remember that Buffett's philosophy is not about extreme sacrifice. It's about alignment, aligning daily habits with long-term goals. When people spend in ways that conflict with their future aspirations, financial stress becomes almost inevitable. But when habits support long-term growth, life gradually becomes more stable and flexible. The fascinating part is that these principles are available to anyone. They don't require special connections or insider knowledge. They require patience, discipline, and awareness. The biggest obstacle is not complexity. It's human psychology. People naturally crave quick rewards. They seek excitement. They react emotionally to uncertainty. These tendencies make it difficult to follow slow, steady strategies. But those who overcome these psychological traps often find themselves on a completely different path. And this is why Buffett's advice remains powerful across generations. The economy changes. Technology evolves. Markets transform. But human behavior stays remarkably consistent. If you can develop habits that work with the power of time instead of against it, you create momentum that grows stronger every year. So the real question isn't whether Warren Buffett's ideas work. Decades of results have already answered that. The real question is whether people are willing to follow simple principles long enough to see the results. Because in the end, financial success rarely comes from a single dramatic moment. It comes from thousands of small decisions made over years and decades. And now I want to hear from you. Which of these habits do you think affects people the most today? Is it spending to impress others, chasing quick money, ignoring personal growth, emotional decision-making, or careless spending? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read as many comments as possible, and your perspective might help someone else think differently about their financial future. And if you enjoy learning timeless wealth lessons from investors like Warren Buffett, make sure to subscribe for more videos that break down the psychology of money, success, and long-term financial freedom.